In 2026, a quiet but emotionally charged narrative is circulating across segments of Western media. It does not arrive with breaking news sirens or dramatic footage, yet it carries enough weight to ignite debates in religious institutions, academic circles, political discussions, and online platforms. Reports suggest that in certain parts of Europe and North America, there has been a noticeable increase in individuals from Muslim backgrounds converting to Christianity. Baptism records are referenced. Asylum cases are analyzed. Social media testimonies gain traction, sometimes accumulating millions of views. For some observers, this is described as a spiritual awakening. For others, it is framed as a troubling sign of religious decline. But before any conclusion is drawn, before emotion overrides analysis, one fundamental question must be asked. What is truly happening beneath the headlines? At first glance, the statistics appear dramatic. Local church communities in specific regions report higher numbers of baptisms involving individuals from Muslim-majority backgrounds compared to previous years. In certain asylum proceedings, religious conversion becomes part of documented personal narratives. Viral online testimonies often present deeply emotional stories of transformation, which audiences naturally interpret as indicators of a broader movement. However, raw percentages can be misleading when detached from scale. An increase from a small baseline can produce seemingly explosive growth rates without representing a large structural shift. When examined globally, no comprehensive demographic data suggests a widespread or systemic collapse of Islamic adherence. In fact, long-term population studies continue to show strong global retention and growth patterns within Muslim communities worldwide. This contrast between localized visibility and global data signals the need for deeper context rather than immediate reaction. To understand the situation accurately, ideology must be temporarily set aside and environmental factors examined. Over the past decade, millions of individuals from Muslim-majority regions have been displaced due to war, economic instability, political repression, and regional conflict. Migration on such a scale inevitably reshapes identity structures. When individuals flee their homes, they do not merely change geography. They experience psychological dislocation. Familiar institutions disappear. Cultural anchors weaken. Social networks dissolve. In these conditions, human beings instinctively seek stability, support, and belonging. In many Western countries, Christian humanitarian organizations have long established infrastructures that provide social services such as housing assistance, food programs, language instruction, legal orientation, and community integration support. This presence is organizational rather than conspiratorial. It reflects historical development within those societies. Yet when structured outreach meets vulnerability, meaningful relational bonds can form. Sociological research has long examined how crisis environments influence decision-making. Faith transitions that occur in contexts of displacement are often intertwined with emotional safety, community acceptance, and material stability. This does not invalidate sincere spiritual experiences, as genuine theological transformations occur across all faith traditions. However, it does highlight that belief decisions rarely happen in isolation from surrounding pressures. When individuals navigate asylum systems where credibility, vulnerability, and community endorsement can affect outcomes, religious affiliation can intersect with practical considerations. The intersection does not automatically imply insincerity, but it complicates simplistic narratives of mass awakening or mass abandonment. Beyond migration, a second dimension involves generational identity within diaspora communities. Young Muslims raised in Western societies frequently balance dual cultural frameworks. Within their homes, they may inherit traditions deeply rooted in ancestral heritage. Outside, they navigate environments shaped by secular norms, pluralistic values, and sometimes politicized portrayals of Islam. Adolescence and early adulthood already involve intense identity formation. When layered with media scrutiny, social pressure, and occasional discrimination, that process becomes more complex. For a small minority, distancing from visibly Muslim identity may feel like a pathway towards social ease. In rare instances, conversion can symbolize cultural assimilation rather than doctrinal rejection. Such cases are highly visible online but statistically limited in scale. Media amplification further intensifies perception. Individual narratives, particularly those involving dramatic personal change, naturally attract engagement. Algorithms reward emotionally compelling stories. As a result, isolated testimonies can create the impression of widespread transformation even when aggregate data suggests otherwise. This phenomenon is not unique to religion. It occurs across political, social, and cultural topics. Visibility does not automatically equate to magnitude. The louder the narrative becomes, the more critical careful verification becomes. Framing this development as a theological defeat overlooks the structural dimension. Religious communities thrive not only through doctrine but through institutional presence and intellectual engagement. Historically, Muslim civilizations developed comprehensive support systems, including charitable endowments, educational institutions, healthcare facilities, and traveler lodges that served diverse populations. Faith was reinforced through scholarship, social justice, and visible compassion. In modern diaspora contexts, adaptation becomes essential. If community institutions function solely as ritual spaces without expanding into mentorship, youth dialogue, professional networking, and counseling support, gaps can emerge. When questions are discouraged rather than addressed thoughtfully, distance grows. These are organizational challenges rather than theological weaknesses. It is equally important to maintain proportionality. Localized increases in baptism numbers within certain Western regions do not translate into global religious realignment. Macro-level demographic trends continue to show resilience within Muslim populations worldwide. At the same time, Christianity, like Islam, remains a major global faith with its own diverse internal dynamics. Presenting the situation as a zero-sum spiritual competition oversimplifies a far more intricate human reality shaped by migration, adaptation, and identity negotiation. Ultimately, what appears dramatic on the surface often reflects deeper sociological currents. Migration disrupts structure. Media amplifies anomaly. Identity evolves under pressure. Religious decisions in such contexts become interwoven with belonging and stability. The appropriate response to these developments is neither panic nor triumphalism. It is careful analysis, institutional strengthening, and open dialogue. Communities that invest in intellectual literacy, youth engagement, social services, and compassionate outreach naturally build resilience. Faith anchored in understanding rather than inheritance alone demonstrates long-term endurance. The conversation in 2026, therefore, should not revolve around fear of collapse or declarations of victory. It should revolve around responsibility. Are displaced individuals supported comprehensively? Are young people given safe spaces for inquiry? Are institutions evolving with demographic realities? Headlines seek immediacy. History measures durability. Religious traditions that balance scholarship with service and conviction with compassion have historically navigated periods of upheaval successfully. What we are witnessing is not a civilizational earthquake. It is a moment of visibility shaped by complex social variables. When faith, politics, migration, and media intersect, perception often expands faster than reality. Beneath the amplified narratives lies a more grounded truth. Belief systems endure when communities cultivate belonging, clarity, and care. And sometimes, what looks like a wave is simply a mirror reflecting areas that require renewal rather than alarm.